Mark Rasmussen.
Shayla, Twit.
3 mistakes Sarasota sellers are doing in today's market. We want to share those with you in today's video. Mark, you know I have a list. Okay. Top 3 mistakes sellers are making right now in today's market. Number 1, overpricing from the start. How does that backfire?
Well, I mean, the best time to sell your property is like the first week because that's when the seller has the most leverage. So finding the value of a property isn't always easy. So sometimes you want to try a little on the high side and then have to lower it, which is a pretty common strategy. But if you're so out of the park in terms of price, you're not going to get showings, and that's a huge mistake. I mean, you want to be in the ballpark with comps, with your recent sales that are just like your property. So, it's a huge mistake to have a price that no one's willing to pay.
And sometimes we have a really unique property that is difficult to appraise. And sometimes in those cases, we will advise a seller to, hey, can you, maybe seek out an appraiser? Here are a few. It's not really the norm. I don't typically recommend that. Typically, I can go and pull properties that are outside of the area or that were older sales and things like that. But generally speaking, we kind of have a really good gauge out the gate. I think the mistake sellers make too in a market that's more even, like a 6-month market like we're in now, is pricing it $1 under what we think it's actually worth. It's such a psychological thing that's a lot of sellers don't want to do. Like if you were a seller, I don't know, I'd have a hard time with it too. I understand.
Yeah, I get the strategy and I've seen it work well. It's hard to pull out. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
You want to try to obviously sell it for as much as possible. But at the end of the day, when you're trying to come up with an asking price, there's 2 parties to a contract, the buyer and the seller. You can ask whatever you want for your house, but someone has to be willing to pay that price. And, if you're overpriced, you're
missing the buyers.
You're missing out on showings and buyers. Most of the transactions you see out there, they did have to lower their price to find market value, especially in a market that's moving.
Right.
If prices are dropping, you have to figure out where your property's worth. So sometimes it's
adjust.
difficult. You have to be fluid.
And the other thing is we could price it. Let's just use $1 million. That's because it's an easy number. $1 million property priced well right now, but then in 2 weeks, your neighbor sells or lists it for like way less per square foot, or you're just like, wow, that's going to sell first because now they're undercutting us. And so just because I list a property today doesn't mean it's going to be priced well in 2 weeks. I think a lot of it has to do with the activity, the showings, the calls, the feedback. We put our properties, people think that the reach has to be internationally, which of course we do reach our buyers internationally. But when you look at the list track reports, the list track report is such an awesome gauge of where the buyers are looking. And in a lot of the cases of my listings, it's over 50% people from Florida, and they could be in your backyard. So we can't negate or not understand that the buyers are coming from here too. They move around. If they like an area, they tend to upgrade or downsize in that little area.
Yeah, international marketing is great. I think it's more just fluff, to be perfectly honest with you. The buyer is not going to come from Dubai or any of that nonsense. It's usually Steve from Ohio or Joe from Florida, or our feeder markets are the Midwest and the Northeast. So it's important to work with a realtor that has the tools where you can figure out where are the buyers coming from.
Our islands are even more unique, and each island in and of itself is super unique. And normally we find if you live on Longboat Key or you own property on Longboat Key, generally they end up staying there. Same thing with people that buy in Lakewood Ranch. They stay in Lakewood Ranch. They have a family. Now they don't need the size, so they downsize. They go into a villa maybe. And so that migration is really interesting. It's always changing. It's not always the person that's so far away that sellers think.
Yeah, and back to the original point, you really have to be aware of your competition. And if you price it higher than your competition, make sure the value's there. Sometimes it pays to go and look at your competition. hey, I've got these 3 people in my neighborhood and they're priced here, here, and here. If you want to price it above them, be realistic and look at the photos or go visit that property and say, is it real? Is my property really worth more than theirs?
Right.
You know, you have to be a bit objective and be honest. Which buyers, which property are they going to pick? Because they'll always pick the best value. Okay?
Well, it's funny you say that because I had a meeting it was an estate situation sale on Siesta Key for a condo, and I sat across the table from the trustees, the family members, and I brought my laptop out and I showed them, like, where would you put yours in relation to this one, and this one? These are our best comps. And they came in actually under the number that I was going to advise. So it's like a perfect seller because, then it moved really quickly. It moved in like less than a week in today's market.
Yeah.
So they were, maybe, I don't know if it's because it was a trust, so they're like a little removed. They're a little bit emotional, but they can be pretty emotional situations as well.
Sure. And it's hard to not be emotional when you come up with asking price because you want to obviously get as much as you possibly can. But there's listing it and they're selling it.
Right.
And to sell it, you have to have a realistic price.
And remember, as a real estate agent, the listing agent, we don't get paid unless we sell it. So our incentive is not to sit for months and months either. So it's a relationship, it's changing, it's communication and watching the market, like you said. Okay, yeah. Point number 2, mistakes sellers are making in the Sarasota market and probably other markets, skipping preparation and staging. How important is staging?
Huge, absolutely huge. I mean, for the most part, people don't want to buy a project. I've worked with a ton of buyers in my career, and a lot of them don't have the vision. You walk into this property, and it could be the perfect property for them, but it's not presented well.
Yeah.
It's bad furniture, no furniture, whatever. There's something wrong, and they don't have that vision in their head. So you almost have to create that vision for them, and that's why these builders, if you go to a builder model, they're awesome. They beautifully designed, beautifully furnished. You have to get as close to that as you can within your budget, within your what your capabilities. So I've seen properties you didn't even have to lower the price. You just had to present it better, and that's through nicer furniture or staging or cleaning, decluttering or something like that. It makes a huge difference.
Power washing, all of that, making sure it's clean, weed free. Pretty much, all my properties are staged or virtually staged. And when we say stage too, we're not saying hire a company and spend thousands of dollars. Like, I go in and I spend an extra day or two going in. I might make multiple trips with a seller to their home to be able to declutter, and really less is more. I go by the 3 color rule. So your eye it's more pleasing to the eye if you have like 3 colors in a room. Pick 3 colors that are soothing. Like, I like the spa light colors because they're easy. It makes the rooms bigger, whites, things like that. And less is more. Have large pictures versus a million small ones, for example. So you want to take out the family heirloom stuff. You want to take out the tchotchkes. One thing I always do, like, when you have cabinets and they have just dust collectors on top, it's like your eye goes there. Remember, people are looking on their phones, this thing like this big. And if there's so much stuff, you want that it narrows this picture, and you're just like, this is so cluttered. I don't even want to look at. The brain's like, this is overwhelming. And so pick 3 colors, minimize, declutter, take out the stuff off the countertops. And that's something I help you with. I have a pretty good eye for that stuff, visually, artistic with that. And if you just decide to remove a whole room, we can do virtual staging, and that works really, really well too.
It's funny. I look at some of the photos on MLS, and they take let's say a bathroom photo, and there's like toothpaste on the counter, toothbrushes in the kitchen. They got a pot and pan sitting on the stove, and it's like, you gotta present, especially for photos,
Or the towels are uneven. I mean, like, I spend a lot of time in my houses. I am we've been friends a long time. I am so OCD. I chop the pillows. I take things out. I'd rather have less things on the bedding. Or if a seller is like, what should I do? I'm like, just go to Home Goods, get just a white duvet. Don't break the bank or anything. And then just get white pillows. It's just easy. You don't have to think about it. And it just makes the house look bigger.
Makes a huge difference, because a lot of agents do their go-to if something's not selling is just to lower the price. And quite honestly, that oftentimes is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
But you can actually have the right price, but it's just the property is presented wrong. And it matters, I mean, a lot of times people don't think that it matters, but the presentation matters,
And like power washing and window cleaning also goes a long way. I would tie that in with paint.
Mm-hmm.
Power washing is a really inexpensive thing, but they like the spots and things show up in photos, not to mention when someone comes in first impressions. I look at all of that stuff. I look at the dirt in the corner, the little wasp things on the, in the doorways, and just, it has to be clean.
People don't want to buy a project. They don't want to buy a dirty house. They don't want to buy, hey, I got a bunch of dents in the drywall and chip, they don't want to do that stuff. They're not signing up for that.
And listen, I'm not a big proponent of having you spend all kinds of money, but where it is important, and I will say, is these things that we're mentioning, they're inexpensive. There's things that I can help you with. We have vendors for, I can help you with physically, like I said, going and staging and advising you where to move furniture and things like that. If you're gonna have to move and sell the house anyway and take the stuff out, we have to take it out anyway. So it's a good time to do it when you're staging.
And it can really be the difference between selling it and not selling it. And you'll probably sell it for a higher price. There's a lot of statistics out there that say that. So, selling a house sometimes isn't easy because it makes you do all these things that you do, your to-do list that you haven't done, though. But you do want to do it. You do want to get those.
Think about your competition. What other their buyers are looking at, not just your house. So you have to be prepared.
Yeah.
Last but not least, choosing an agent on commission only. Why is that bad, Mark?
This is your biggest transaction, financial transaction for most people, unless you buy planes. But
I have so many planes.
You wanna put it in the hands of someone that's done it a bunch of times. Yeah. If your cousin sold a house once 2 years ago, and they don't really do this, I'm sure your cousin's great and all, but it probably isn't the wisest decision to hire them to sell your biggest investment. Hire an expert. If you're going to have a knee operation, you want to hire the doctor that's done 300 knee operations, not the guy that's just learning how to do it. I mean, it's really kind of that simple.
I look back when I was new too, and I was like, of course I made mistakes, but I had a mentor. I always had a mentor overlooking or asking questions. But yeah.
It's not to say that a new agent is going to do a bad job. As long as they have some guidance from their broker or manager, they can do a great job. Sometimes they have more energy than a seasoned veteran. Mm-hmm. But again, you just have to have good advice and good representation, whether that's just an agent or an agent and their manager or whatever. But you definitely need someone that knows what the hell they're doing. Otherwise, selling a house can be a nightmare for someone that doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah, it's like the saying, if you think it's expensive to hire a professional, wait until you hire an amateur. I think that's really true. Do you really want to test it out? And the other thing I would say in line with this is like, compare apples to apples, right? So if I charge X percent and the next person charges less than that, well, what are you getting? When I present myself to a seller, I have a CV, a curriculum vitae resume. And in that, I have a lot of the things that set me apart that I do differently. But I take it a step further, and Mark knows this too. Like when a seller is like, well, what have you been doing? Within the first 7 to 10 to 2 week period, I send you the actual full email of the links, the screenshots, the PDF, the articles, the this, the that, the views, the impressions, like all the feedback so far. So it's a really detailed, long email. So you see physically where your property is being shown. And if you have a ton of views and you're not getting showings and having it sold, like it's not necessarily the agent. I mean, we're working in a market as well. But you want an agent that is going to be advising you, that knows the market inside and out, can rattle it off, right? Like we know this market really well. We've got little niche markets that we're following all the time. And it's important that you feel comfortable with the agent, that it's a relationship business. it's not just the numbers. I mean, honestly, the sellers just want the highest net.
Yeah.
Right? So if I charge a little bit more, but at the end of the day, I bring you a higher net, isn't that really all that you care about is the net in your pocket?
And a seasoned agent or even a newer agent with good management or good guidance can net a higher price. Or if you're if you do get an offer and there's negotiations in terms of repairs, and it pays to have someone that knows what they're doing, because we need to know these contracts.
The contracts
and the type of contract, whether it's as is, whether it's a standard. I mean, there's a lot of nuances to this, and you know, you do want to get good representation. I don't know how to say it any more clear than that. It's important, especially in a market that's kind of flat or maybe going down, or it's kind of hard to get a buyer. It's even more important to get good representation in the heated market like the COVID refugees that came to Florida. You know, you could have it was pretty easy to sell a house, because I mean, it didn't, you know, it was pretty easy.
This is where the rubber meets the road, when it's challenging,
when it's hard.
And we have a database too, not just myself, if I take a listing, but within the office and the large network that we have. I'm part of the Guild, the Institute, which I have the Guild as well, which is a higher echelon of top tier agents around the country. So you're constantly networking. As a matter of fact, I'm doing a webinar with that group about getting more showings on your luxury listings. So like there's constant education involved with an agent that is top tier. Like, don't you want to know that your agent has had the education and experience, the market knowledge, and they understand how to pivot and maneuver you as a seller through these challenging times? They know how to handle the objections. I mean, a lot of times too, with the process is dealing with agents on the other end that are really challenging to deal with, that are not familiar with our area. They don't know how our contracts work. And it's like, you know, you're coming from another area, but you want that full commission as the buyer's agent. It's a lot. So that can be part of it too.
Sometimes agents will, if they're going to make an offer on a listing, they'll look up that agent to see what kind of production that agent is doing. And if they're on the newer side, they might try to pull some things, thinking that listing agent doesn't know what they're doing. I mean, not that we do that, but I know agents that, you know, they're like, that person's only sold like 2 houses. They don't really know this market, or they're from a different market, or they don't have much experience. So it does matter, you know, because your representation, having someone that knows what they're doing will pay.
I would say
will certainly help.
I would say in tandem with that, like your name and your reputation matter, because there have been some, I know it's hard to believe, but have had some slimy agents come and go. They build a not so great reputation, and I think that that really matters, and your name matters too, and ethics, and
it's a small industry,
hard work ethic,
small town, things get, you know, people, word gets around pretty fast. So hire someone you know and trust, and it's competent. Competence important. And it'd be good if you like
your agent. Again, at the end of the day, real estate's a relationship business. I wouldn't just go off like a calculation or like a spreadsheet. I think, you know, having dialogue and communication really matter, and just all these things. But if you have questions about what my CV looks like, what my sales history looks like, our company, kind of our reach and things that we can do for you, it's a great time to sell. It's not an overwhelming number of, you know, amount of supply, and we're heading into season, and I think the best is yet to come.
So if you need any help, give us a ring.
I mean, call me,
call
but
Shayla,
you know, 941-544-7690.